Hello and welcome to the Soul's Kitchen podcast. My name is Lisa Wilby, and I want to have conversations with people who are living or following their soul's purpose or desire. So today I'm really happy to welcome Tammy Ward, who is living in Fredericton. She's a retired RCMP officer who is now a motivational speaker. So we're going to let Tammy tell us her story of how she is or came to be living her soul's purpose. So, hi, Tammy.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me on your
Well,
show.
you're well. Thank you for agreeing to come on. This is so fun. Yeah. So I'll let you tell your story. Whatever you want to say. How you came to be, because it takes a lot of courage, I think, to go to live what your soul is desiring or your purpose. Deep down inside. Like we've all, like me too. I have a 9 to 5 job, but I like to do other things that align with my soul. So, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
tell
yeah.
us. Yeah, you don't have to focus on the RCMP stuff, but just say how you went from there to doing what you're doing now.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I served for 24 years, and a lot of my career, especially the end of it, I worked with domestic violence and Crime
Okay.
Stoppers and things where I was doing a lot of presenting and talking to people. And
Mm.
eventually, when I left the force, I left from PTSD because of being involved in a shooting. And refinding myself, I guess, because I retired just in time for COVID to stay
Okay.
home with my dog. Yeah,
Yeah.
big change in my plan. And I just spent some time still like teaching and doing stuff and offering, yoga over Zoom because that was one of the things
Right.
that I did. And then my heart is just spend some time thinking, okay, like I'm not that old, I'm retired. What am I going to do? Because I'm not a
Right.
sit still person. And, different things came up, and I don't want another job. I've had a job, I've had a career, I've had a
Right.
boss. I don't want any of those
Right.
things. And I was really thinking on it and what am I good at and what makes me happy? Because if it
Mm.
doesn't make me happy, I don't need to do it. I have a pension, but I need to do something.
Right.
So I started with speaking at events. I did a whole bunch on COVID online and just talking and sharing my story about what I went through being a female in a little boys club called the RCMP,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and just helping other people see that no matter what you go through, if you persevere, you can overcome. And then I just came up with the thought that, you know what, I can still help people even though I'm not wearing a uniform anymore. And
Right.
so then I looked into and created a website, which I had help with because
Mm.
I'm not that good at it. So I got some help along the way. Still get help sometimes. Again, learning what you're good at and
Right.
helping, getting help when you need it. That was a learning curve for me too. After leaving the force, was actually
Okay.
being willing to ask people to help me with stuff. Because while I was in the force, it
Right.
was you to ask for help or to show emotion was a sign of weakness. And I've
Okay.
learned that that's total BS. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about more and create more dialogue around is with our mental health, because especially since COVID, but in all first responders, our nurses and doctors, we're
Mm.
constantly seeing and dealing with things that the rest of the world, fortunately, never have to bear witness to.
Right.
And I was reading an article and it said that an average person in their lifespan will have 1 to 2 traumatic events. A police officer, on average, in a 20-year career, will see well over 400 or experience more than
Wow.
400 incidents. And I was like, holy crap, that explains so much um, of what I've
Mm.
witnessed. I've lost people to suicides as well.
Right.
So for me, that is one of the things that I really want to speak about and create a better dialogue, because it shouldn't be a shame or a stigma. And I use the analogy, like if you had diabetes and you needed to inject insulin, would you, or would you just suffer in silence? You would,
Right.
right?
That's a really
So
great analogy, actually.
thanks.
Yeah.
So with mental health, if you need a little pill or something to help balance, or maybe talk to people or do yoga, learn some breathing techniques, learn some coping
Mm.
strategies, why is it a stigma to seek that help? So that's where I really want to focus. I want to focus on that area. And then my heart is really with empowering women, and letting them know that just because you're a woman, regardless of your size, regardless of your race or whatever, if you're purple, you can do everything, you can do anything you want to do. And that's my story with policing. When people, most of the people I've worked with, they've wanted to be a cop since they were like knee high to a grasshopper, and their daddy was, and their uncle was, and their grandpa was. And I went into policing because somebody told me I was too little. And so I said, well, I'm going to write the test and see if I can. Yeah, my boyfriend and his friends were all writing the exams and talking about how hard it is to pass the exams back then. And that very few people pass on the first attempt, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I should write. And back then I was teaching classical ballet and working as a counselor. And they were like, oh my God, you're so little, you would never get in. And I was like, I'll show you. So that's kind of been my way of life. If somebody tells me I can't, I just do it anyways. And I kept going through the process with policing, and I kept passing everything. And even at the last minute, when I got the offer to go, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I want to do this, but I guess it won't look bad on my resume. So off I went. And partway through, I loved law and had a really good average. Halfway through, I had 100% in law. And I was like, maybe I should leave and go back and be a lawyer. Yeah, because I already had one degree. And then I ended up doing my on-the-job training. And within a week, I was like, oh no, I love this. It's the adrenaline. It's like no 2 days are ever the same. It doesn't matter what hour, what day of the week, because you could have a quiet Saturday and you could have a crazy Tuesday. Like, it was just never any predicting. And I loved that side of it, but I really loved being able to work with people. And one of my strengths throughout my entire policing career, which kind of makes sense with where I want to go now, is my ability to talk to people. Like, I can count on one hand the number of physical altercations I've actually been in as a police officer. I'm not big, so I'm not intimidating. So when I talk, it tends to de-escalate instead of escalate.
Well, that's an interesting thing you just said, because I think when people think of police officers, you think of physical altercation. But actually, they probably talk a lot because you don't want to get to the physical altercation. You want to be able to talk someone down. So probably a lot of your training, actually, I don't know this, would be to how to talk to people.
Not enough of it.
Not enough of it. Okay. But something, I think, like you said, where your strength is how to talk to people, how to de-escalate the situation. So that's really interesting. I just, when you said that, I clicked for me. I thought, oh, right. Because you always, you watch shows, TV shows, and the cops are always running, chasing after someone or stopping someone or like tackling them or whatever. I mean, I know they're TV shows, but you know what I mean? I think we think, so that's really interesting. And then you mentioned something too, before you went into the RCMP or policing, you were a counselor and did you say fitness instructor?
I taught fitness and classical ballet.
I
taught ballet.
Yeah. So the physical part was already in your life.
Oh yeah.
And the counseling too. So it's almost sort of like, if I think about it like a thread, right? I always like to think of people's lives as a thread to where they started to what brought them here. It's kind of, it was already there. You just took a route like through policing, and now here you are, motivational speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. All kinds of intertwined together. Yeah. And my policing gave me a lot of different perspective.
Right.
Because I was fortunate. I grew up in a family where we didn't want for things. I mean, we weren't rich, but I didn't go to bed hungry either.
Right.
So I grew up very fortunate. But policing really opens your eyes and you see what's really going on in the world. And if you bring some kindness into that, and some compassion when you're dealing with these people, and that's where, my upbringing and also how my counseling came into play, helped me speak to people instead of
Mm.
bossing people or being on a power trip, which unfortunately some people
Right.
do. It was, I'm there to serve, I'm there to help. And if you keep that mentality instead of I'm in, I'm in charge, I'm in power, um, policing can be a lot better. And I think,
Mhm.
unfortunately, the perspective, because we see a lot of what goes on in the States, which in my experience is very different than Canada, and I'm very thankful for that. But also TV has this portrait of what policing is, and it bothers me because I'll watch a little bit of something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to turn that off. I got to turn that off because they're doing it wrong. Like, we don't do
Right.
that.
Right.
And I actually did a talk once at a women's power summit. And it was like being a police officer, a female police officer is nothing like what you see on TV. Like, I worked major crimes. I've gone to murders. I do not wear white pantsuits. I did never wear stiletto heels. I did not wear my gun backwards or push-up bras with my, hanging out. Like, that was never part of how I went to any scene. So it angers me because the women are shown in sexual manners as opposed to being strong and smart.
Right.
So yeah.
Wow,
so
that's
I had pictures up and showed, like, images from different police shows and how the women were dressed and how the women were portrayed. And then I'd show, this is what I looked like with my big boots on and my 20-pound gun belt. And, it's very different.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know why I just thought of this, but sometimes if I watch a British show, like, it feels like that's more realistic than North American shows with cops and all of that. But anyway, but tell me how you got into, like, the speaking. I know you talk to people and in counseling, but how did you start speaking in front of groups? How did that come about for you?
For me, that started actually in the RCMP when I left general duty and I moved to Fredericton, and I was in traffic, and they were launching it was called Road Safety Vision 2020. It was a big thing all across Canada, and they were handpicking people from traffic services to take the course. And I was new to traffic. I was only a constable at the time, and my boss wanted to put me on it. And Ottawa was like, she's only been here a little bit. Like, we want people with a lot more experience. And my boss is like, no, trust me. She's really good at what she does. So I was like, okay. So I got to go on the course and be an instructor for the course. And what happened was the gentleman in charge of traffic services, who was an inspector at the time, came down when we were doing the final presentations on the course, and he saw us presenting. And he said to my boss, he goes, oh, now I know why you wanted her here. And then fast forward, I don't know, 6-8 months later, Transport Canada were having their annual meetings in Montreal, and the RCMP were supposed to go and present on the Road Safety Vision initiative. And Daryl, who was the inspector in charge, actually reached out to my staff sergeant and said, can Tammy present on my behalf? Because I know she's a much better speaker than I am. And then I kept getting into roles in policing where I was teaching. So I taught with traffic, I taught new member courses. And then when I got my sergeants, I was in charge of community policing. So then I was helping facilitate restorative justice, community safety workshops, safer communities. And then I was doing a lot with domestic violence. I was presenting at conferences on RCMP response to domestic violence. And then I got involved with the Silent Witness Project. And then I'm one of the founders of Safer Pets 2, which is a program we have here in New Brunswick, where when a woman needs to go to shelters, you can't bring an animal, which was seen as a barrier, both as a police officer, but also by an academic. When Dr. Doherty, she did research with another woman, and that was one of the barriers that they identified, was women would not go into a shelter if they had a pet, if they knew that their partner would harm or kill the pet. So it was a barrier from women leaving, and subsequently women were dying. So what we did was, there were 6 of us at the time. We came together and we developed a model, which has been over 12 years now. We've helped well over 100 women in New Brunswick. And we've helped with, small pets from maybe hamsters, guinea pigs, all the way up to a horse.
Right.
Yeah. So what we do is we have a fostering network in place, and the NSPCA has been an amazing partner. They'll meet the woman with the animal,
Oops.
and we get the animal to a vet for a checkup. The Veterinary Association of New Brunswick has been absolutely amazing with helping us. They make sure the animals are okay. If they're missing a needle, they get their needle. And then we put them into foster for 30 days at a time while the woman is able, and a lot of times
Right.
it's a woman and child, are able to go into a shelter to heal, to get help, and to find a safe place for them to live. And then we reunite the family with their pets.
That is amazing. I never
Yeah.
knew that. That
Yeah.
both pieces of information about women not leaving because they would worry about their pets. That is,
Yeah.
I mean, that was like a poof. And of course, makes sense. And then to find for you guys to find found that organization to help do that. That's wow. I'm blown away by that.
Yeah, it's amazing because it takes away that barrier, and there's already so many barriers in place, especially for a woman who is also a mom who needs to provide for her
Right.
children. And we've had women say, I could no sooner leave my dog or my child's dog at the house knowing that my
Right.
partner would hurt it or kill it than I could leave my child behind.
That is amazing. So that's a really good thing to know. Like just another thing to think about, like when you're thinking of helping people.
Yeah.
So then they fostered the pets until the woman is able to be on her own or with her child, and then they get reunited. That
Yes.
is amazing.
Yeah. Because before, people either had the choice of leaving an animal behind, which my dog is like, I couldn't leave her behind if I
Right.
knew somebody was going to hurt
Of
her,
course.
or rehoming it. And when you have children and that's their pet, and you're already tearing up their entire world to
And they're already-
separate them
yeah.
from, it makes it easier for them to leave and be able to tell their child that while we're staying here, your puppy's staying with somebody else.
Right.
And when mommy and you move, you're going to have your puppy back, or your cat, or whatever it is. So it just makes it so much easier. We've removed that barrier. I mean, there's so many other economic and, other barriers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But at
Well,
least
that's
we can
amazing.
facilitate. Yeah.
That must feel good. I don't know.
It is. I
Yeah.
think for me, that and some of the other work I've done in domestic violence, like that's my, I don't know, my legacy,
Yeah.
my best, I don't know, the part I'm the most proud of in my career. Not, some of the other fun things that I did or rank that I made, but the fact that I was a part of something that's still helping women.
Absolutely. No, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, yeah, your story is amazing. So like stepping into like what you're doing now, but it's like again that thread that I keep thinking about. It's quite like evolved
lots of
and
knots.
involved. Lots of little lots of knots, but also lots of like I'm not thinking of the right word, but lots of creativity, but also just moving forward, like a lot of strength in what you had to do or what you've been doing,
Yeah. It's
And
definitely
so-
not a straight line.
It's not a straight line, but nobody's life is really a straight line, right? So
No.
out of trying to get into passing the exams, and then there you built that career, and then moving into really helping, like actually really helping people. Not that police don't help people, they do, but just in a little bit of a deeper, more meaningful way. So with the speaking, tell us more about that. Like, where do you speak? I know you said about mental health. So is it just sort of along in that kind of umbrella about mental health that you talk about, or you said you want to empower women?
So I have a couple of different talks. Like I've talked at,
Okay.
and I'll be speaking at more events where that's like Women Power Summits, our
Right.
International Women's Day, sharing a little bit about my story, my struggles, and how I got to where I am. I like sharing that because I've had people come up to me afterwards and say, one woman came one night after I spoke and she said, "Can I give you a hug?" And I was like, "Certainly." And she's like, do you realize you spoke to my heart for the last hour?
Mm.
And then I had another woman who was just getting out of the military, and she had had some experiences similar to mine with the harassment and stuff. And so she talked and she's like, I really needed to hear you because I can see the possibilities on the other side now.
Mm.
And that was
That's, yeah,
powerful. Yeah. So
that is
that,
power. So, yeah.
yeah. So just, I don't know, letting people know that it is possible, and sometimes you just have to find the right alliances. And
Mm-hmm.
as a woman, instead of being catty or, I'm all about like fixing somebody else's crown. Like, I think that
Right.
there's power in uplifting other women, there's power in recognizing other women.
Mm.
I don't care if I know you or not, like, kudos if you're doing good. Like, there's some women in our city here that are just rock stars at what they do. And when I see they win an award, or I see they're doing something, I'll message them, I'll comment on their post. They're not my best friends. Some of them I
Right.
barely even know, but it's like, hell yeah, good on you. Like, I honestly think that when one woman makes a step forward, it's a big
Mm-hmm.
step for all of us, because we're showing other women, especially younger women, that are being brought up in a society that is very different. Values are very different than when you and I were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Just, letting younger people see the possibilities of what a strong woman looks like. And a
Right.
strong woman doesn't have to be cosmetically beautiful or wear a size 2, or
Mm-hmm.
like, there's power in being smart, there's power in working hard, there's power in having your own income. Those are the things that I want women to know.
Well, also, I think too, what you're saying, there's also power in having self-worth, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, like what you must have seen in your policing days when you said, your eyes were open into how other people are living, and a lot of people are coming out of, like, I grew up in a great home as well. So when my eyes were opened as well in life, when you see that people who didn't grow up as well as you did, or didn't have the money for
Mm-hmm.
food or whatever. So the self-worth part comes later, you
Exactly.
know? And yeah.
And just
So go
seeing
ahead.
people, and acknowledging them, whether they're starting out. And like, one of the women I helped get out of a very violent situation, her first job was working at Tim Hortons. And you know
Right.
what, good on her, that was the first job she's ever
Of
had. She got
course.
out of an abusive relationship, she found a job, she feels better about herself, she's providing for her own children. She's not a lawyer, she's not a doctor, but hell, she
Doesn't
took that
matter.
first step.
Yeah.
And there's a purpose in everything that people do. If it wasn't for people doing certain jobs, other people wouldn't be able to benefit from them. So it doesn't matter if you're pouring a coffee or you're doing a
Yeah.
surgery, there's purpose in everything. And to recognize that purpose. And my big thing too is, wherever I go, whether it's buying a coffee, whether it's I'm at the
Mm.
grocery store, I take a minute always to say thank you to the person serving me, and to
Mm-hmm.
ask them how their day is. And I freaks people out, because most people wear name tags, and I address people by their name, because I think
Mm.
that is beautiful, to recognize somebody, and I acknowledge you as a human, and I said your name. And I've had people look at me startled, like, how do you know my name? And I'm like, it's on your
You're
shirt.
wearing
They're
it.
like, oh
It's
yeah.
true. Yeah,
Because they're not
absolutely.
used to that kindness. And I see people sometimes, and I just like shake my head, like, poor little cashiers, and somebody yelling at her because the price didn't show up. And I'm like, oh
Uh,
my gosh,
I agree.
there's
Do you
bigger
think
things.
something has changed since COVID, or do you think this has been going on for a while? Like, I noticed the same thing too. Like, I'll say hello to, I work in the service industry too, and I'll say hello, whatever. And they don't say hello. They just said, I'll get a whatever it is they want to order. And I'm thinking, well, where's the hello? Like, what can we
Yeah.
just take one moment
Yeah.
and like say hello, have an interaction. It's a fast world, like fast paced, and with the phones and
Mm-hmm.
everything's instant, and like talking about mental health, right? Like, what do you want people to know? Like, I think do people have to slow down or what?
People
What's
need to
happening?
slow down. People
Yeah.
need to breathe. And I
Yeah.
think the word grace needs to come back into our culture, and not
Mhm.
grace as in, the beautiful ladies of the 50s with flapper
Yes.
dresses and everything, but
Yeah.
grace as in giving other people permission to be, giving grace that we're not all at the same level, that kindness is free. So what the heck?
Hmm.
Last week I had to call about my MasterCard because I hadn't had a bill in 3 months and something was wrong on one. So when the girl that answered, she said, hello. And I said, hi, how are you today? And there was like this little silence because I think I took her aback. And
Mhm.
she's like, I'm well. Thank you for like she was like, thank
Yeah.
you for asking.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking you've probably been yelled at all day. And it
Mhm.
just it set the tone for our call. I was like, I explained what was wrong with my bill. She's like, let me look into that. Like she was
Right.
more than helpful. And I appreciated the help, and the call ended. Thank you so much. I appreciate you helping me today. And she's like, oh, you're welcome. Have a nice day.
Right.
But if we go into situations with just a little bit of grace, with a little bit of kindness, and not like, I'm in a hurry, get me, like
Yeah.
the interaction is different for everybody, not just for the person who is helping you, but for yourself. Like when you walk in and you're hostile and you're demanding,
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
going to be mirrored. And that's what people don't understand. And I remember I worked with a police officer, and in my opinion, and it's my opinion, he shouldn't have been wearing a uniform. And he would say stuff, oh, did you see the attitude on those kids? And I'd be like, yeah, I did, but they didn't have an attitude until you started speaking to them.
Right.
Like if you don't
Yeah.
show respect and kindness, regardless of who you are in society, in or out of uniform, you shouldn't expect it to be given back to you, because respect has to
Right.
be earned. It's mutual. And in my policing career, there was people with rank that I respected the position, but I had no
Not
respect for the human.
not the person. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So what would you say to encourage women like right now, like in these times? I mean, we've got a woman mayor in our town of Fredericton. We have a woman premier.
Premier for the first time.
Yeah, for the first time. Do you think things are shifting? Like feminine power is starting to kind of show its strength, or what do you think?
I think
How
it
about that?
is. And I think maybe one good thing about our younger generation is that gender is a lot more neutral.
Mm,
In some ways, I don't think it's great, but in other ways, I think it's good that you don't have to be a man to be a doctor or a this or a
right.
that. Like doctors can be women, just like men can be nurses.
Right.
And so I'm seeing that difference with our younger generation, that those roles, like girls only wear pink when they're babies and
Right.
boys only wear blue, and boys can't play with a
Mm,
doll, and girls can't play with a truck or climb a tree. Like it's just like, let kids be kids.
right.
And so I have seen a shift in that, which I think is good, because girls in school now are being told, like,
Right.
these are all the things you can do, whereas
Yeah.
our parents' generation, women were only secretaries. They weren't a
And
boss.
and even in our generation too, it wasn't, it was a
Oh
nurse or a
no.
teacher maybe.
Yeah. When I
Yeah.
started my policing career, where I went was approximately 120 officers. I was one of 5 out of 120
Wow.
plus.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. So
So
so tell us what's coming up next for you, where people can find you, like speaking or doing what you do.
So I'm hosting the International Women's Day here in Fredericton. It's going to be on March 15th, because actually International Women's Day falls on March break in New Brunswick. So we
Okay.
wanted to pick a date that would be available for women to come.
Right.
We're hosting it at the Crown Plaza.
Okay.
And a part of our theme is sharing stories and helping people see the progression. It's going to be diverse. We're inviting people from different backgrounds, different cultures to be speakers. We're going to have a panel. as well, my goal is to have beautiful gift bags for every woman, because the whole night is about recognizing women and how special they are. And to empower them with our talks, we're going to have a panel where people can ask any question they want. And as we are doing it, one of the things that I put in our sponsorship level, our package that is being sent out to businesses and other women in business, especially if anyone sees this, or
Right.
women who are very financially well off, I would love for people to not only buy a seat at the table for themselves, but to buy a seat for somebody who otherwise couldn't
Wow.
afford to be there. So
Right.
my goal is any of the money, like hopefully we'll make a profit, but we have 3 charities that we want to recognize, one being Liberty Lane, the other being Gig New House, which is the only Indigenous shelter in the province of New Brunswick, and then the Silent Witness Project that I'm a part of, because a lot of our silhouettes need a fresh coat of paint, need their stands or their shields fixed, and we're all volunteers. So money will go to those 3 very, very worthy organizations. And if people would donate seats, what I would love to do is first give seats to both Gig New and to Liberty Lane, so that
Right.
women who have already shown so much bravery and have taken that step forward to have a better life, that we can gift them a ticket to attend an event that is going to fill their cup even more and help them on their journey of healing and of strengthening. And yeah, that's my big goal for the event, is just
Wow.
women empowering other women to take that step forward.
That is an amazing, amazing idea. And I also put those women in a place where they can connect with other women. Oh, I just
Yes.
got goosebumps. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Sometimes people need a hand up, not a hand
yes,
out.
right. And just to be
Yeah,
included in the conversation.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because we all bring
Awesome.
value, wherever we come from, whatever our experience
Yes.
is. And my big thing when I talk to people is, like I had a young girl ask me how I got so strong. And I actually
Mm,
did a reel about it, because I said, you know what? I've been through so much shit. I had no choice but to be stronger,
right.
to give up. But not everyone
Mm,
has to go through those things. So you can learn from other women who
other
have.
people. Yes.
Exactly. So that perhaps, or if you are in the shoes I used to wear, who better to
Right.
help somebody navigate the
Right.
way through
Of
than someone
course.
who used to be there, that can help
Right.
you see and navigate the system, or navigate how to get back into school, how to navigate, feeling good
Mm,
about yourself and taking care of yourself and your family, than somebody who used to be you. And I
right.
say, there's no amount of education, there's no book you can read to empower you
Hmm.
like experience and having worn that shoe.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Tammy, thank you so much for talking to us today. I'd love hearing your story and
Thank
where
you.
we can find you. I know you're on Facebook, and is this event going to be on Facebook that you're talking about for Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Women's Power Summit. So it's in Fredericton.
Okay.
And you can find it on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram. So
Mm-hmm.
it's Tammy Ward, or Your Truth Lies Within, all
Right.
one word.
Okay.
Um, so people can connect on either of those, or on
Okay.
LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I love that your truth lies within. That just seems to go with the thread of your whole life.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to me today. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.